Greetings! Welcome to EnergySpin Fireside chat.
My name is Marko Kuokkanen and here is my colleague Marko Koski.
We are EnergySpin. We bring together startups and scale-ups together with our corporate partners to bring more sustainable future together.
Today we have in our discussion we have a Geyser batteries and utility from local Vaasa, so Vaasan Sähkö.
It's going to be an exciting chat. So please, Andrey, if you could tell about your business a little bit.
Guys, good to see you all. Pleased to be invited by our long-standing partners in Vaasa, EnergySpin. My name is Andrey. Our company actually started from EnergySpin 2.5 years ago, and we're bringing a new class of batteries to the market. We have invented them after a long history of R&D and manufacturing of various types of batteries, pretty special chemistries, and lately supercapacitors. And this novel proprietary electrochemistry of ours, it keeps all the advantages of supercapacitors, like millions of charge-discharge cycles, very high power, but actually increases the energy density 3-5 times compared to supercapacitors and bring them to the territory of batteries. In essence, it does combine two energy storage methods, and for that reason, it is kind of a breakthrough in the industry. Importantly, we use water-based electrolytes instead of currently widespread organic electrolytes, which makes our batteries very safe and probably most importantly, simultaneously very green. We don't need a lot of energy to produce them and thereby do not have huge CO2 footprint. And for the same reason, they're pretty inexpensive because the manufacturing is simple. That's in a nutshell about us.
Thank you, Andrey.
Now, Hans Alexander, or if you call him Hassi, from Utility of Vaasa.
Thank you, Marko, and nice to see you as well, Andrey. It's been some time since I saw you last time, as well, Marko and Marko. Vaasan Sähkö, or Vaasa Electricity in English, is a local utility company. We're active in the Finnish energy market, selling electricity to entire Finland. We actually have clients in every single municipality at this point of time in Finland, and we're very proud of that. Apart from electricity, we also sell heat as district heating to the city of Vaasa. And we have also a distribution company called Vaasan Sähköverkko, so responsible for distribution of electricity in Ostrobotnia region. Company is funded in 1892, so we have strong roots and funded in Vaasa. So we're in the heart of the energy cluster in Vaasa, and very proud to be part of that.
Thank you, Hassi. Let's start with the discussion with Andrey. So, like you, Andrey, mentioned that we have known each other for more than 2 years, and as you are starting startup, so a good question is that why did you decide to come to Finland and establish a company in Finland?
Well, Europe is now one of the sort of epicenters globally for electrification and for the green agenda. And we were looking for a right place in Europe to start manufacturing of our batteries. And thanks to you guys, by the way, probably primarily, we've learned about Vaasa as a major cluster for production and for energy-related developments in Nordics. Well, Nordics is like Europe squared in terms of Green Deal agenda, so Vaasa was a natural choice, and there comes Finland.
Thank you, Andrey.
Further question, perhaps to Andrey, that you've been so far and you've been so successful and raising funding. But what are the biggest surprises so far you can see during the journey?
Well, there's been quite a few learnings for us along this journey, but probably one of the most exciting at the same time challenging is that the pace of electrification is just so high that customers just don't have time or, I don't know, not ready to wait for tailor-made optimized solutions, and they are desperate to get standardized products, but now. So the challenge for us is actually to go for standardized products and make sure that our customers can sort of continue their developments as fast as possible, not waiting for us to deliver them a final module, but rather maybe something modular.
Thank you. You kind of described a little bit already your status, but could you elaborate a little bit more the status, what you're doing at the moment in your company?
So I think the most important about the things that we do is the commercial traction, like what we do with our clients and what kind of projects that we have in the pipeline. We're now developing a platform for low voltage, specifically 48 volt devices, by developing a device for heavy machinery company. So they want to electrify their agricultural equipment, and we're developing a battery for a mild hybrid tractor. And this is a very particular field where the reliability is particularly important and high power that we can deliver. So by developing this product, we are essentially setting up a cornerstone for further modular creation of products, so that we do not focus on electrochemistry anymore, but only develop products based on standardized blocks. So that's in the mobility or industrial sector. At the same time, we are actively pursuing grid sector, and we're starting from kind of more supercapacitor like projects like artificial inertia and frequency regulation. Still aiming over time as we scale up, as we manage to get to gigawatt hours scale and accordingly reduce the price, similar to lithium-ion industry has done over the past 10 years, to go into the large-scale energy storage for relatively short time frames. And the advantages here would naturally be the sustainability of our batteries, that establishing a major battery capacity would not cost the environment a lot of materials and a lot of greenhouse gases emitted.
Thank you. I have a question to the Hassi. So utilities are, let's say, normally when they're doing business, they are selling electricity or heat, but during the last years, let's say that your company also has started to, let's say, more focus on startups and looking for new innovations. And could you describe that why you are, let's say, nowadays looking new innovations more and more?
You're completely right about that. Utilities are known as traditional companies. The business used to be that, well, you need to provide stable power, and usually that's done with large combined heat and power plants. Today, and already for some time, the market has been changing. So we're getting more and more renewables in. And of course, our clients demand that we have renewables, sustainable choices. So as a whole, the energy market is changing. You really care about what type of electricity and energy you buy. So this creates, of course, a need to find new solutions. EnergySpin as a startup program brings us closer to the startups, and we can hear their ideas, and through that also hear our partners' ideas, who might be system integrators, and see what the total package could be. And we then, as an energy utility, could take this complete package, pilot it in our system, and bring these advanced solutions to our clients.
Thank you. I would continue on that one, because of course the transition towards renewables and sustainable energy and the whole ecosystem, that's provides some challenges as well. What kind of challenges that will bring to your business, Hassi?
Well, for starters, you cannot tell the sun when it should shine, or if it's
you can try.
You can try, yeah, but but it's a hard battle. Same thing with wind and wind power. Wind power is playing a large role and will play even a larger part of the production in Finland in future. But this will create a need for more flexibility in the system. So those days when the wind is not blowing so hard or when it's very uneven wind, we need balancing power. So it creates new type of stresses and creates new type of needs for how to manage the complete system in our end as well.
Thank you. Perhaps more to other type of question for Andrey, because Geyser batteries, they're not batteries in per se, as even the name kind of applies to that one. But what's the biggest difference supercapacitors have compared to regular batteries? What you would define that one?
You're right. Our batteries are as much supercapacitors as batteries. In fact, that's the beauty of it, that we combine both in one electrochemical system. These two technologies, they are principally different in the way they store energy, but they're complementary. So supercapacitors store energy through electrostatic process pretty much, and this process is very fast, so they can be charged in seconds and at very high power, but they can retain only small amount of energy. With batteries that store energy through a reversible chemical reaction, the situation is the opposite. So the chemical bonds, they allow to store a lot of energy, but at the same time, the speed of that reaction limits how fast you can charge the battery. And because there is direct influence on the material of electrodes particularly, you can do these charge-discharge cycles only limited amount of time. So the challenge for the industry has been to combine both, hopefully in one system, but without introducing disadvantages of both, which is the low energy density for supercapacitors and a low number of cycles and power for battery. So these are the main two. So that's a dilemma. In our case, we have combined them, and we have combined them so that the reaction is not involving electrodes chemically directly. That means that we are retaining all the advantages of supercapacitors, but just simply increase the energy density of the device. So you can think about this as a supercapacitor with a high energy density, or as a medium energy density battery without disadvantages of batteries.
Thank you, Andrey. Sounds very technical. So could you please open up? Could you try to open up a little bit more to the audience that, for example, what kind of applications could be typical applications to use your products?
Well, typical applications would be the cases where you need to charge batteries many times and as fast as possible. And these come from all sorts of industries. So probably the simplest to explain both the nature of the batteries and typical applications is the automotive industry. If we think about a Tesla car or just an electric car, you need a battery there to be able to store energy kind of as a long-term buffer. So you pull it from the grid and then you use it over a day, 2, 3 days to drive your car. However, if we talk about hybrids, and particularly mild hybrids, the cars where the electric engine is used to recuperate energy and to immediately sort of distribute it back to the system, which means that the battery is constantly charging and discharging, and you do this dozens of times a day, if not hundreds in the heavy-duty environment, then you need a different type of energy, of battery. In this case, the number of cycles, the power with which you can do this comes sort of to the front. And similarly in the grid sector. So in the example that Hassi made about the renewable grid, and that's kind of the key sort of area where batteries are playing a disruptive role, there are two different tasks. One task is to store energy when the sun is not shining, and another task for the batteries is to provide this immediate burst of power when basically there is disruption in the grid. For example, a major consumer has plugged in and made this disruption. So in the latter case, you need something that reacts fast and reacts often. And you are not so much concerned about the energy density. But if you need to store energy for a day, then you probably really need a battery with the higher energy capacity.
Thank you, Andrey. Hassi, could you open up a little bit more from your perspective regarding the different kind of applications where you would see that where supercaps could play a role in your grid?
New type of service that's being opened up in the Nordic energy markets is fast frequency response. This is to provide stability to the network. If we go back a bit and think about windmills, you talk about that you have a certain inertia in the system. Inertia means that you have big rotating mass that brings stability, brings also strength to the system. Now when we change from traditional generators to converter coupled windmills or solar power, we lose that inertia. And to keep the entire system stable, you need to find something else. And a very fast responsive supercap type of battery, if I may call it that, will react super fast and will provide, you talk about digital or synthetic inertia to the system. So you talk about millisecond response. And whenever you hit that cross mark, when you need to respond, it can immediately stabilize the system. And I think also what I heard from Geyser, that they are developing an application that would fit perfectly to this kind of fast frequency response market, where you need to discharge with high power several times a day. So the time you discharge is only seconds or minutes. We're not talking about hours, but you use them many times. So the cycle count is very large.
That sounds excellent, Hassi. I believe that's something for the future and definitely something what is coming. But a further question, as a startup to be an accepted manufacturer for you, for utility, what should be done and what steps are the critical ones in order to that succeed?
This is a very good question. Of course, as an energy utility company, the main task for us is to secure the delivery of the energy to our clients. So first of all, it needs to be secured. It needs to be, the quality needs to be good. I would say the first step, what we can do is, of course, to do small scale pilot tests where we can limit the risks. And whenever we see that this is a product that actually works, we can tie it into a market and tie it in on larger scale. So to scale it up in small bits and pieces, then that's, in my opinion, a good plan. The other thing what we need from startups is that as Vaasan Sähkö does not have an own product development department, we need to tie up with, for example, a system integrator to make it an entire package. And by combining and making this a full system, I think that that's the way to make it a complete package that we also can pilot and use and further then develop together with other companies. So really let's say our role in this chain would be to pilot, to test, and to give the feedback that it actually works in the electricity system as planned and as designed.
I have an additional question to the Hassi. So my understanding is that you are involved on a future investment. So lots of wind power is coming to your grid in the future. So what is in practice the need for this kind of, let's say, that supercaps or battery systems in your network in the future?
Well, I think that with a growing amount of wind power and renewables, there will be a need for more batteries in the system. Today, the reserve market and this market is handled by Fingrid, so the national grid company in Finland, and it's market-based. So they manage the grid and they buy these kind of services. And to me, it looks like that the market will increase. Of course, the future will tell. My crystal ball says that it will increase.
Yeah, we don't have the crystal ball here yet, so it's a... Thank you, Hassi. Back to Andrey. So, how do you see, let's say, your company's status at the moment? Let's say that, especially regarding on a piloting and how ready you are, let's say, that to take to the further steps.
Well, we are setting up the manufacturing, automated manufacturing of our products while developing actual products to manufacture on that production line. I think the main challenge for us is the capacity for development of more products and serving more customers. So the demand that we have is a little bit exceeding our pretty limited capacity, and that's why we keep raising funds. But essentially, we are now a company that is shifting towards more standardized products and trying to work with those clients, companies, and partners who would offer us reliable market for the products that we develop, so that any development that we do does not end up as an sort of R&D work on the shelf, but rather as a product that brings revenues.
Yeah, I have an additional surprise question to you. So, when you are, let's say, being a foreign startup in Finland, so we asked it on a previous episode about surprises. So, for you as a foreigner in Finland, how do you see what has been the biggest surprise, what you couldn't expect when you arrived here?
The Finnish language is so complex.
How come?
Well, how come? Because even 2-year-old can speak it, 1-year-old Finnish can speak Finnish. So how can it be complicated?
Yeah. It's almost like Martian. It's you can hardly relate it to anything, any languages that you know. That's the problem. And you cannot guess the words. Like university, which is uni something in all the languages, suddenly becomes Yoliopisto, if I pronounce it correctly. How come? But seriously, if talking about the surprises here, there are not kind of major surprises really. I think what had been a little bit underestimated is the value of network and the challenge to develop the network. That's probably the most difficult thing when you start new company in the country that you have never lived before. So for many things that might have come naturally, or connections that might have come naturally for you if you lived in the country and the city a long time, they just do not appear, and you need a couple of years time to sort of be around to develop this. And this time is pretty hard.